Ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bhaskaran. Today, I will speak on World Trade Agreement and the expectations of the agreement from Indian agriculture sector. During 90s, India went for globalization because at that time it was told that if we want to grow our economy at a faster rate along with the developing countries, we must open up our economy and improve our trade relationship with other countries so that Indian economy will be opened and our economy will get more return or revenue from the our product from other countries. This is what told during that time, and it was also envisaged by different economists. Primarily, India is an agricultural country and then a manufacturing country as well. Indian manufacturing was catering to local economy only, that is for the Indian demand only. It was not catering to the global market. Similarly, Indian agriculture also was catering to the Indian need only. It was not exporting many of its products. This was the condition. That time, it was told that India being a large country, agricultural country, there was plenty of scope for exporting agricultural products to the developing countries, so that Indian farmers or Indian agricultural sector will get a lot of revenue from other countries. It will pave way for the economic growth. This is what envisaged, and government went through all these norms to open up the economy towards globalization. The entire thing was decided at the policy level by the government, and it went ahead with the all international bodies to smoothen the exchange of products. But now it is almost 30 years now. What government has decided to globalization and what has happened so far. It is a kind of evaluation or stock taking. So, what was the goal? What was expected during at the time of 90s, and what has happened all these years? And are we going in a proper way, or we need to correct ourselves towards a globalization policy? This is what we have to identify, or we have to take stock of things at this juncture. This is what I feel. So I start from on both sides. We will see the condition prevailed during 90s. On the policy level, when we opened the globalization, and the government wanted Indian developing countries should export to developed countries their products so that they get more income revenue. This is what simplified way of expecting the things. It was told in that way. Okay. During 90s, what had happened to the Indian agriculture? All the farmers are not aware of things. When the government is switching over to globalization, what is expected from them? What the farmers are expected to do towards globalization of their farm techniques? But this is not aware of them. Okay. So, in spite of that, agriculture was going through a transition during 90s. That is, climatic change was started setting in during the 90s, and there was a shortage of rainfall, spell of drought, excess floods, all these things, failure of crops, all these things were taking place during the 90s. So it was the beginning of climatic change. So people were unable to address these issues, crisis in agriculture. There were a lot of farmer suicides, and particularly for cash crops, for cotton cultivating farmers, there were plenty of problems were there because they were switching over to BT cotton, and which was not congenial to their environmental changes. So crop failures happened, and they could not cope up with the crop losses. This is what happened during the 90s. So, after the year 2000 till now, the last 20 years, climatic change has taken the acute dimensions. That is, very erratic rainfall has taken place. There was a continuous drought spell for 3, 4 years or 5 years, and then there was a heavy rain followed by the drought. This is what happened in the last 20 years. All this drought or floods or storm, all these things were unprecedented for the last 100 years or 150 years or 200 years. Like that. There was very, very heavy drought or rainfall or storm. These extreme conditions were not favorable to agriculturists for agricultural operations. So, farmers were unable to decide what course of action should be taken for the normal agricultural operations. This is what is taking place for the agrarian community in the last 20 years. There are a lot of improvements, a lot of measures taken to improve the conditions of the farmers. Measures were announced by different governments, central government, state governments, all the effort, every year of calamity, relief measures were declared, and it is going to the farmers. Though not to the full scale or 100%, some kind of relief is being given to the farmers. This is one kind of relief. Another thing is insurance policies were introduced to the for crops. Crop insurance schemes were introduced. Farmers were ensured to get some kind of benefit from the insurance if there is a calamity or a crop failure. Because crop failure was the major thing farmers were unable to cope up with. This is what has happened during the last 20 years. And this is still going on, and different measures farm level operations are different taking place. That is, small farmers are unable to do normal farming, and the big farmers are trying to go for mechanization kind of process. That is, to cope up with the climatic conditions, they are depending on external source, particularly water. Because when the rain failed or monsoon failed, agriculture has to be has to be in full operation. So they went for deep borewell irrigation methods, so that they can have some kind of crops and return from that. And this was possible only for the major farmers. Small farmers were not able to do such things because the investment on irrigation techniques are heavy, and not farmers are not able to do that. This is one thing. Another thing, mechanization of agriculture. Mechanization of agriculture is has gone to the full swing for paddy cultivation, because particularly in paddy, right from sowing to harvest, full-fledged mechanization has taken place. So, paddy cultivation can be fully mechanized. When we go for mechanized operations of paddy cultivation, again, size of the land becomes an issue, because only large farmers can use that mechanization process. Small farmers are unable to use that because it is not economical to them, or it is difficult for them to call hiring services. But they are not able to own their own machineries. For hiring also, holding becomes a problem. This is what is happening in the agriculture sector in the last 20 years. For other crops also, the same thing is happening. Some crop failures, and some excess production, or in some cases, all these things are taking place in different parts of our country. This is on the agricultural front what is happening. When we look at the other side, when government is committed to globalization of Indian economy, they are went ahead with the policy frames and the programs of globalization. For that, what has happened? Agriculture sector is an unorganized sector. So, when we expect the farmers to go for global operations, for export-import operations, they have to follow the norms, and it should be a formal transactions, agreements, they have to enter it. Banking operations, they should have. All these things are not possible for the farmers. So, what government thought, first we must convert the unorganized agriculture sector into organized agriculture organizations. This was what introduced by our government during the early 2000. Because at that time, an expert committee was formed in 2020 to get the agriculture organized the sector, and they went to different kind of studies. And 2006, they submitted the expert committee submitted a report. They told that the agriculture to convert the agriculture operations into a formal one, we must make for organized groups like FPOs, farmers producer organizations, FIGs. There's kind of different groups one should form, and then it must come under or registered under a Companies Act. They must have farmer producer companies, so that the ROC, Registrar of Companies Act, will apply to the farming operations or in the organizational functions, so that farmers should register the organization to under the Companies Act, so that it can be monitored every year. So transactions will be audited, and they will have programs, they will have board of directors, they will have programs, so that the all these operations can be taken at a corporate level of functioning. This is what envisaged in 2002 2006 report, and 2013 they introduced that. According to the report, they introduced the producer companies. Producer companies is exclusively for the farmers. Farmer earlier, when they went into what kind of operations or what kind of organizations the farmers can have, they found that earlier it was cooperative movement exclusively designed for the farmers. But somehow, which it is not successful in many states, so we cannot take the cooperative movement again into the operations. We have to overcome the loopholes in that cooperative movement. So they have studied the problems of cooperative movements, which was developed in 50s. Then they also studied private limited companies. Private limited companies comes under the Companies Act. Even two members can form a company, and it is completely registered under the Registrar of Company Act. And then every year it was audited, managed by board of directors. The functioning was the company becomes a legal entity, so it is a pakka formal structure to deal with any negotiations or agreement. So for farmers, they introduced the farmer producer company. The difference between a private limited company and farmer producer company is farmer producer company, only farmers can become the members. Nobody else can become a member, because to become a member of farmer producer company or shareholder of a company, he must be a farmer, and he must invest with his share capital. It was demarked as 1,000 rupees as a share capital. And as far as the share is concerned, the share value is fixed. It will not have, it is a fair value. This will not change or it will not increase. Whereas in private limited companies or public limited companies, the face value of a share can change. When the company is performing well, the share will go up, share value will go up. But that cannot be in producer companies, because they cannot trade the shares, because whoever opens a company, he becomes a shareholder, and he is a shareholder forever. If somebody else wants to come in as a shareholder, he has to buy and come. The existing share cannot be traded. This is what told in this producer company. So the functioning of the farmer producer company is managed by board of directors. These are the basic differences of a private limited company, farmer producer company, and cooperative movements. So farmer producer company is exclusively designed for farmers. A farmer can be a shareholder, it cannot be traded, and it can be managed by a board of directors, and they can have a annual submission of reports to the ROC, so that it is a formal and legal entity. They can go for agreement with any kind of business operations. This formal structure is legal entity, so it is ready to take up any exporting operations. But
Mr. Bhaskaran,
yes,
sorry to interrupt. Your images are not moving.
yeah, okay. Change the screen. Okay. Okay.
Okay, you are in second agriculture
Yeah.
scenario one. That image.
Agriculture scenario.
Okay.
I have completed beginning of climatic change, spell of changes, and introduction of crop insurances, relief measures. This is what had happened to the agriculture in the last 20, 30 years. The other side, the right hand side, government policy side, I am taking up now.
Yeah, please proceed. Thank you.
Okay. So the government policy is to get organized agriculture. They have introduced the farmer producer organization. So the government, the board, SFAC, all organizations are interested in the task of organizing the farmer producing organizations. They are going ahead, but the matter, the thrust is not being taken to the farmers, because these are the systems available to the farmers to get organized. This is the status of condition now, but farmers are unable to understand, unable to change themselves towards the organizational expectations. This is what is happening now. From year 2013 to this, almost 10 years, for the last 9 years, if you see how many companies have registered, what is the success of these companies, how much growth they have taken place, all these things, if you see, the many companies are struggling to get themselves organized, because the company expects a professional approach towards a corporate system. But farmers are not professional corporate managers. This is the big gap remaining there. But who can give the training or professional support to the farmers is a gap, because the resource institutes are identified. When they promote the farmer producer companies, they are interested to yeah, interested to teach the farmers about the responsibilities. Give them exposure visits, give them training, all these things. But the training packages, all these things are not one-to-one training, because they take somewhere, just ask them to go for picnic kind of thing, exposure visit they call it. But how many farmers are getting involved into the operations is a big question mark, because in all producer companies, when we see, it is for the director's role is not fully understood by the many companies, because they take it is a responsibility. But responsibility means that there is a program of agenda before them. They have to take up the challenges. They have to make it operational. They have to give a viable result. These are the expectations of directors or the board, but all the directors are not fully aware of all these things, because they are not educated on the one hand. They are interested in common things, but the knowledge is limited. But they have to be educated. Their interest should be focused, and there should be imparted a professional training, which is lacking now. So, because of these reasons, in the last 8, 9 years, even though we have many producer companies registered under this Companies Act, many companies are not able to function in a successfully, or not able to understand the expectations of a farmer producer company. This is what I find now. So what I find here is, this is the time of when we take stock of the situation. The expectations of the government is a different, the role of the farmers is something different. The voluntary service a farmer has to produce, give, is has got some limitations. The knowledge, the time, the expertise, all these things are limited to the different farmers. Here, how can we match the gap is a primary question here. So, in the organizational structure, we have to think of some modules which you can import some knowledge to the farmers, or we have to have a professional institution or training or package or syllabus which can give the farmers or the staff who is employed by these producer companies to do the operations. So when we look at the farmers side also, they have got two things, that is farming operations, and the farming produce should be converted into exporting commodities, and this has got a banking operations, value addition processes, and then exporting formality. These things must be entrusted with some task oriented staff so that they can look into these operations. These are all professional things with some standards. These standards must be adhered to in the export import norms. So all these things the farmers cannot do himself. He has to depend on a professional who can perform all these things. These are the things I identify the things. Then again, when I identify the gaps, how what are the countries expecting agricultural products is not known, because there must on the government side there must be some agency which must educate the agricultural community. These are the demand products for the export, and these are the scope of items Indian farmers can look into. This is the things must be given to the farmer, and what kind of product is expected in the export market, because the farmers can produce the agricultural commodity. So when it must be value added, so what kind of value addition must be needed, at what stage, at what level, these things must be given to the farmers. Then only these things can be exported. This is a gap. We are farmer or professional cannot understand all these marketing conditions. The market of export must be thoroughly studied, and wherever scope for our farmers, for Indian commodities, and this must be exclusively studied by some agency, and that must be recommended to the farmers so that farmers can take into that import or export schemes into their hand and go further. And then similarly, for mechanization or value addition or agricultural operations also, farmers can import things, because particularly for mechanization, Indian agriculture is not fully mechanized. For agriculture, paddy operations, it has gone for some kind of mechanization. There are plenty of other agricultural operations. All these things, all these places, what kind of mechanization can we bring in to the Indian agriculture is an essential thing. Because when we go for large scale mechanization, the different countries are having different kinds of mechanization. Whereas when we have small farmers, marginal farmers, we have to go for small mechanical tools which can increase the outputs. These tools can be either manual or power operated. But a farmer himself can operate these machines, or he can hire those machines at his village level, and then his farm operations can be done. These are the things when we import mechanization process should be taken into account. These gaps in the kind of mechanization of agriculture, the mechanization suitable for small farmers, the mechanization in the form of farm yard operations, whether irrigation or weed removal or harvesting or plowing or sowing, all these compartmentalized operations should be studied, and then according to the crop level or farmer level, machinery should be introduced. These are the things that should be taken place at the farm level. At the export level, what we have to see is what kind of demand is there in the global market. So what our Indian agriculture sector can tap in. So how these things can be shown to our agriculturists or farmer producer organizations to take up as a export venture so that they can get profit from all these things. These are the things that we have to look into because this is the area. Who will look into these things is a big question. Either government or a separate professional body or farmer producer organizations. Because these are highly technical things, essential things. When we convert the agriculture into export-oriented business, these things must be properly and addressed. Then only we can have a full system to be successful here. This is what I identified in the last 15 years, almost 15 years of experiences of our farmer producer companies when we attempted to convert the farmer producer organization to organize the sector. So what I see here is this is a stock taking kind of situation. We have to see the things and then we must look into the experts must look into this gap and then according to the locality, or whether it is a paddy grown area, sugarcane grown area, millets grown area, cotton grown area, or oilseed grown area, pulses grown area, all these areas, what are chili, different spices grown area or cash crops grown area. All these crop regions must be looked into for the products export potential. And then what are the scopes of farmers to get all these things must be looked into by professionals. How to develop these professionals, how to tap the market, how farmers should be educated towards that, how the directors, board of directors in the farmer producer organization must be educated on these lines or the gaps I identify here. So these are the things I wanted to address to the farming community, experts, or different media people, so that they can give their attention towards these things, so that a new light will be thrown on this subject, so that some ventures or new routes or new ways will be shown to the farmer for their future. I think I have covered major points I wanted to cover, and if any doubts, I think can interact. I think can I cover all these things due to the time allotted to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you for the details. I'll take up the questions now. In the meantime, can you stop sharing the screen so that we can see a full video? You can stop sharing the, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Focus on this. Next.
Click on stop sharing, it will work. If you click on screen sharing, stop screen sharing, it will go off. You're facing any problem?
Yeah. I get it. Now, this is the title of our program.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
title of the program, and then we focused on the situation of agriculture during the 90s and 2000. So on the left hand side, you see, can you see the screen? One
Yes, sir, we
beginning
can
of
see.
climatic change.
We can
Yeah.
see.
On 1, 2, 3, 4 points, explain about what has happened to the Indian agriculture during the 90s and 2000 to 2020. All
Okay.
these years, climatic change was a major problem encountered by the farmers because normal agricultural operations was not possible. There were crop failures, droughts, floods, all these things. So there was unsuccessful agriculture during crop failures during these seasons, and as a remedial measures, government has taken different things, relief measures they introduced then and there, but every state, at whenever there was a flood or drought. They have introduced the crop insurance scheme also, so that directly farmers get the benefit when they get a crop loss. These are the things to ensure a better agriculture during the last 30 years period. This is what has happened in Indian agriculture. So, whatever may be, there is a difficulty in getting agricultural operation during the last 30 years. This is one thing. Another thing, when different measures are introduced towards mechanization, getting the things organized, all these things, mechanization was major things introduced during these things when mechanization process was initiated. What has happened? Paddy has gone to the full mechanization system because only in paddy, right from sowing to harvest, there are plenty of mechanization operations. So that paddy has is can be done without a labor-oriented thing. Now, this is what has happened now. Though for irrigation, there are different government has taken up irrigation subsidies or schemes, so that according to the area, different irrigation facilities are available to the farmers, so that for water crisis, they can go for irrigation schemes. For mechanization, they can go for mechanized system of operations. So that any kind of agricultural operations can be modernized with these two kinds of mechanization or irrigation techniques by the farmers in the last 20 years, irrespective of the monsoon failures. This is what is happening now.
Okay.
At the same time, for small farmers, it was not possible, so that crop insurance schemes were introduced, so that even small farmers get the benefit from the crop losses through the insurance policies. This is what happened at the agricultural operation side. On the other side, government, what has taken place is they introduced, yeah, farmer expert committee to study into the getting the agriculture organized sector. They in 2002 to 2006, an expert committee studied all these things. They have introduced the recommending farmer producer companies registering under Companies Act, which is a formal sector, formal group. So it was introduced in 2006. Government accepted this in 2013. So 2013, farmer producer companies came into existence. After that, these companies was farming producer companies was interested with the two organizations, SFAC and the NABARD. These two organizations were asked to form farmer groups under these schemes. Government announced many financial support to all these organizations because equity grant and easy loan availability. All these things are available to farmer producer organizations or companies.
Sir,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, sir. I think you have already explained about this slide, sir. All these
Yes.
points. You have
Yes.
covered it. Okay.
Yes.
So, shall we take up some questions, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Okay.
where all these things has taken place, still it is not brought to the expected level. So we identified some gaps here. This is what I given at the third stage. Identify the gaps. For farmers are not fully understood the formalities, and there is a problem in identifying the export potential. All these things are there. All these things who should do? This is the primary question. Either farmer himself should do. All these things should be done by a professional body. And if the professional body, how they will identify the export potential and they inform the farmers. What is the potential for every commodity? For what commodity, where is the potential? And which farmer should address all these things? These are the things now we identify now, so that we must either the exports or media or the consultancy services or the government itself should address all these things, and so that farmers can be encouraged to get into these operations. These are the things I identify now.
Okay. So I'll move to question round now. I'll read out some questions for you, sir.
Okay, so what
In the meantime, can you please stop sharing your screen so that we can see your full video?
share the video, share the screen.
Stop sharing the screen.
Questions? They are sending the questions. I think
You have to click yes, yes. Now we can see your full video. Thank you, sir. I'll read out the first question. Okay, registering the FOPs under Companies Act. What advantages is this supposed to offer?
questions are brain.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, are you giving your questions in the screen?
No. I'll read out.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Registering the FOPs under Companies Act. What advantages is this supposed to confer?
Registering companies.
Yeah. Registering the FOPs under the Companies Act.
Yeah. SFAC and NABARD are the two government bodies, government recommended bodies to form the companies, farmer producer organizations. Okay. These are farmer organization, producer organizations can be registered under Companies Act, ROC. Register of Companies Act. Okay. When they are registered, it is called ROC. I mean, FPC, Farmer Producer Company. Okay. Once farmer producer company is registered, from that date onwards, it becomes a legal body. As that company is managed by a board of directors, it can have objectives, it can go for business operations, profitable business operations. So, which can export or import or to do any trade. Okay. These things are governed by board of directors. The role of board of directors is vested with the farmers now. The farmers are not well versed with the duties of the directors or expectations of the directors. These are the gap. So these farmers who are playing the role of directors must be given adequate training to what is the director's role, how they should see the business operations on behalf of their shareholders, how they enter into the transactions or agreements, all these things. These kind of things must be given to the board of directors or the staff who is taking the farmer producer companies, taking up farmer producer companies. So all these things are not in a professional way now. These trainings will be given by some professional bodies and the directors of different companies or staff of farmer producer companies should go and attend all these organizations and get the training. Or if they want particular training in a particular subject, they should directly contact their consultancy bodies and get the training. This is one thing. Another thing, when we go for exporting or trading a commodity, agriculture commodity, in what form the agricultural produce must be converted or value added. This must be given by a technical expert, and then these products must be converted into a marketable product through value addition. This is also a technical service which must be given by some scientific institutions. This must also be given to the farmers so that or stop please handling that farmer producer company. These are the gaps I identify now. So we must identify professional bodies, either converting agricultural produce into the marketable product or identifying the market potential for the agricultural product and giving the corporate professional knowledge to the directors or farmer directors here. These are the gaps I identify. This knowledge, training, or conversion of the product must be given by some technical institutions or professionals or consultants. That must be an independent organization that must give the training to all the farming community, directors, farmers, or products, and then which will help the farmer producer companies organization to do their farming operations or business operations at a better level. This is what I think. So we
Okay.
must go. Yes.
Okay, I'll move to next question, sir. How many FPOs are there in India today?
It is coming more. It is nearing more than 1,000, I think.
Okay.
Okay. In Tamil Nadu alone, it has crossed the 200 more than 250. By the board itself, SFAC is separate, and now government of Tamil Nadu has gone into collective farmer producer companies. 2017 onwards, they have taken up these things, and agriculture department and horticulture department. These are the two departments interested to the form or collective farming operations. That is also going for things, and government has earmarked 10,000 companies in the last year, in a year. They fixed a target for 10,000 companies. So it is a big agenda for the government, but that must fast change is not taking place at the field level. So,
Okay. Okay, I'll take up the next question now.
Yes.
Okay, how many FPOs are actually active and profitable today?
And with that figure I cannot give, because I go personally seen some organizations and their interest, all these things. But that is again statistical evidence. Now I must work independently. I am working at the farmer side now, and here and there as a random sample, I see the organization's performance. From that I infer the points. But overall, the NGOs, I know some NGOs, who are promoting these organizations, they are also limited only. There are resource institutions to promote all these farmer producer companies are limited, and we cannot say that all these farmer producer companies are functioning up to the mark. This is what I understand. But the number is anyway not encouraging one.
Okay, I'll move to next question, sir. The next question is from one of our participants, Mr. Mati.
Okay.
What are the impact you can see or perceive being a FPO key person by FPOs in Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, in Tamil Nadu, particularly in 2013 to 2017, one scheme, and 2017 till date is another scheme. There are three kinds of points I can see here. When 2013, when the act was introduced, there were many takers, voluntary organizations, NGOs who registered all these companies at that time. But at that time, the time given to them was 3 years. Within 3 years, they have to enroll at least 1,000 farmers to get the equity capital like that. And so that they will get support, financial support, infrastructure support for 3 years to get the things to startup condition. But all these 3 years, even after registering 3 years, more than 3 years, many of the NGOs who floated many farmer producer companies are not able to complete these companies. Even the board has went back into studied these things, 300, 400 members alone were they were able to improve. Because the farmers who are working with them alone can be brought in. Other farmers outside their fold could not be brought in. That was the problem faced by the NGOs.
Okay, I'll take up the next question, sir. Who are the people making agriculture policy in India? Do you think right kind of people are involved?
It is a doubtful only because at the time of 2012, when the first thing was conducted, there was Sir Yogendra Singh, Yogendra Kumar, okay, Allah was there. Okay, Allah, Yogendra Kumar, Allah was an agricultural economist. He was a learned professor, and he alone introduced, he was agriculture minister for a brief period. He alone introduced this thing in the system. Later on, whoever is taking up the policy at the either the bureaucratic level, at the export level, and they are not following the things which was envisaged by that person, by that committee, expert committee. So there is still a gap, but they are earmarking the targets. 10,000 farmer producer organization must be registered. They have fixed the target, but they are pushing the target, but it is not in a fully trained way they are doing the.
Okay, I'll go to next question. What are some problems faced in successfully implementing the FPO idea?
Yeah, here is the studying the market situation. Studying the market situation is there. And another thing, leave alone the export potential. Now, I look into the Indian market itself. When I look at the Indian market, the market for the food product in the Indian market system is not encouraging. Because of the government policy itself, I can say, because in many governments, many state governments, there is a free ration system is there. That is, through PDS is a public distribution system, they give free rice or wheat or other things to the consumers, to the people. So what is happening is the consumers get the ration items at free of cost in many states. So that when the farmer produces either paddy or jaggery or wheat or oil seeds, they are not able to market the product in the open market. This is very big thing. There is a deliberate attempt to undermine the market potential there. This is what I find identified here. As far as grains are concerned, on the one hand. On the other hand, sugar industry, if you see, in the sugar, a lobby is there to promote in particular states only sugarcane industry. In the rest of the states, the sugar industry is not that much successful. So we wanted to promote jaggery system, which will be benefiting the small can growers. This is what we have to do. Similarly, on the third side, it is the oil seed. In the market, edible oil market, if you look into, many edible oils are available, branded edible oils are available around 100 rupees a kilo, which is not at all possible from the oil seed production. Because any oil seed or gingery or groundnut or coconut or mustard, anything if you take, or the raw material of the oil seed is around 80 or 100 rupees a kilo. Around 3 kilos of oil seeds can produce 1 kilo of oil. So the cost of oil itself is around 250 or 300 rupees. Plus production cost is there. But the market in the branded edible oils, around 100 rupees branded edible oil is available in the market, which is suppressing the oil seed production in the open market system. So all these things are not at all possible to encourage the oil seed producers in the Indian system. So these things must be looked into.
Okay. Sir, due to limited time, I'm not able. I mean, let me take few more questions.
Okay,
because there are some around 6 to 7 more questions. I'll take up
Okay.
quickly.
okay.
Okay. Next question is, end of the day, is FPO just old wine in new bottle of the earlier cooperatives?
Yes. A corporate use in the sense corporate is a profit oriented organization, but here the question is we have to look into farmers welfare as well as consumers welfare. Whereas in a real corporate, will look into profit only. This is what when we look into sugarcane industry or oil seed, edible oil companies, they are ready to give edible oil at 100 rupees price, looking at the consumer only. Whereas it affects the farmers. So farmer producer companies, when we expect them to take the corporate role, they must look into the farmers' welfare as well as consumers' welfare. These are the things. This is something different from the conventional corporate outlook. This is what I see here.
Okay, I'll move to next question now. Isn't FPO idea a top-down concept forcing the farmers to think in one way, taking the liberty away from farmers?
No, I cannot say like that because this is the time for government is expecting these FPOs to cater to the market demand because during this time movement of goods was very difficult. Only farmer producer organizations at different level, at different places were expected to deliver the goods.
Okay. I'll move to next question. Okay, please tell us something about your background. What made you take this interest in this topic?
My personal background.
Yeah.
Very good. I am a development economist. Studied in different leading institutions at Ahmedabad, JNU, and worked in IIM also for some time as a development specialist. And then what I found during that time, institutional factor was the main reason or main hurdle to the development problem there. So I decided to jump into the field and study the actual operations. So I took up agriculture as a first-hand things, and then individually I studied each and every problem a farmer encountered. So when at the same time, what government is trying to getting itself mobilize the agricultural development. All these things from the field I see, from the expert view also I see that things. This is what my point is something different from a farmer as well as an expert. I study the situation from the field as an expert.
Okay. Thank you for answering all the questions. Now we have come to end of question round. Agricultureinformation.com likes to thank Mr. R.R.Baskaran for sharing the details. And we also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome, sir.